Hello from Halo, this is Sam speaking. Once again, going through our series of daily production videos concerning our 6-head embroidery machine from Barudan. We are now in the process of setting up our hooped garment to be sewn. We've hooped this garment already in an earlier video. And now we're ready to actually install it onto the machine. So I'm on head 1. Here are our arms. Shift the camera a bit so you can see. And there are clips here that just lift up. And here is a peg. And there's pegs on both arms. Making sure this camera can stay on. I think I'll point it over here. So, placing our hoop onto the machine. You want to make sure as you set your hoop, you're going to put your arms into the garment, into the hooped garment. And this is because as you're placing it onto the machine, you want to make sure that the back is not caught by the sewing, what's that called? This center arm right here. Because if your garment does get bunched in there, now it's going to sew through the back, and that's not what we want, of course. So making sure these tabs will slide. I'm trying to get my camera right. Will slide underneath. You just go ahead and push it in. Slide it all the way back. On the right side, there is a exact peg right here. On the left side, it's a slider. So if you're having trouble placing your hoop onto that arm, I recommend starting from the left, setting that one, and then setting this one. Because on the right, it's going to be a lot more exact. And then quickly, just run your hands underneath and make sure that there's nothing caught under there. Once you have your hooped garment on, it's time to go up to the automat and choose the design we're going to actually sew. So I'm not gonna do Chicago Bulls again. I don't really feel like it. I will go up to do our alternate halo coloring. I'm gonna hit memory again. Now it's set up for us. And now that we have our hooped garment set up on the machine, we can go ahead and prepare to sew. So what we're going to do is hit drive. So this button, as a quick rundown, drive basically just sets up the machine to be ready to sew. So say this is a car. Right now we're in park. We can't do anything to start sewing until we're in drive. So I'm going to hit that. We have a handy setting on this machine. Every time we hit drive, we are required to run a trace. If we cancel it, it's going to kick us out of drive. So I'm going to hit drive again. It's going to allow us to go through the trace process. Now, a trace is exactly what it sounds like it is. It basically traces the parameters of the design within the hoop. So that allows us to make sure that the size of the design does not exceed the size of the hoop. Of course, we don't want to sew on the hoop because that could damage different areas and different parts of the sewing head, such as the needle, the foot, the drive arm, things like that. So right now, this design is centered pretty well into the hoop. That may not be the case every time. You may have to recenter it. So we could do that manually. And just so I can show you what's happening every time I hit one of these directional numbers. That laser that you see is only on head 1. the head that's closest to the automat as we're setting this up. However, all of these changes are being applied to every single head. So we only really need to align to one head like this. And say your design is all the way out here. See how that hoop turned red? That means danger, obviously. If we try to sew the design as it is right now, it will sew into the hoop. And in fact, on this machine, it's actually, we have a fail-safe turned on so that it won't actually start sewing since this is so out of whack. So we could manually go through and recenter it, or we can hit the center button and hold it, and it'll recenter the design within the space of the hoop. So I'm going to go ahead and do a square trace. A square trace is the fastest trace you can accomplish on this machine. And we're going to go back to the trace. Now we're ready to actually start sewing. I don't want to yet. I'm personally going to hit trace again to go back to that trace. And I do want to show you what that looks like when I do a square trace. So that's the actual perimeter of the design we're about to sew. If I can do another type of trace, which is outline. And this takes a little bit longer to do, but it gives you a more accurate idea of the area of that design. And I feel like we're pretty well traced here, so I think we're ready to start. And now this machine is just waiting for us to hit start. So to start, funnily enough, you hit the start button. It's going to reset its needle. The first needle color is white. It's just going to start. Now, as it's running, be aware you can stop. I hit the stop button at any time, and the screen will just tell you that it wanted to stop. To restart, I can just hit start. So on the screen, as it's running, we can see the stitch it's on currently. We can see how quickly it's running. We can see which needle is being ran. We can also see the approximate run time at that speed it will take for that this design to complete its run time. Now, of course, this is only approximate. If we have to stop the machine for any reason, obviously that run time isn't going to be accurate. So I do want to point your attention to this screen right here. This is a really good screen to pay attention to, as well as showing you the stitch, which stitch you're on. This screen will show you where on the design that stitch is. This will come in handy greatly when we need to do a drop-in. More on that in a future video. So it seems like I placed a speed check on this needle. And I do want it to go faster. Oh, I can't run it faster. Let's see if we can run it slower though. And now it's suddenly run slower. You can hear the difference in the machine sound. But I do want it to go faster, so I'm going to hit this and just hold it, and now it's back to being faster. And now we're just waiting on the design to finish running. Once again, this was Sam, and I hope this process or this video will help you with your own process.